Hello and welcome back to another lesson. Today it's going to be Chloe. It's a really nice chord melody arrangement from Chopin that sounds really nice. Listen to the recording here, and I want to break it down a little bit for you. It's not really easy to play, but it sounds good, and all the chords that Chopin is using in this chord melody arrangement, you can use them over and over again. They're like generic chords that are used a lot in jazz guitar playing, so you can work on your technique and have some new vocabulary for your comping as well. I want to start by showing you some of the chords, not all of them, that you need in this tune so that you can just also start by practicing each chord separately. So this is one of the first chords that you need. If you have a look at this chord and you play it on the middle 4 strings, you can see that's probably a chord that you already know. Just now we're playing it up here. It's a minor 7 chord and it's going to be used a lot in this tune. Already we have a little challenge here. And I'm going to show you different ways how you can overcome the challenge. But one thing that you can try to learn is to play actually a bar finger here, right? And if you play it like this, you can play the melody note here. That's going to be something that you need in a second, so, right. If we go back to the same chord on the middle 4 string, that's going to be much easier. And there's also the option, you can think about that, playing many of the chords also on the middle 4 strings can be easier. If this is too hard, and which is also really tough for me, I really needed to warm up to play that somehow, you can also just play the chord like this, then raise all the fingers and play it like this. It's a little cheating because like this, the other notes still ring out, but I think that's legit. So this would be one of the first exercises that you can just like have a little super mini chunk that you put aside, maybe in your technical exercise, and play that. That will come in handy for a long time. The next chord is this chord that you probably know. That's just a diminished chord. I think that shouldn't be too hard. Another chord that you can also practice with another chord in a chunk, right? Because I always like to practice chords in like chunks, maybe 1 or 2 chords connected together. And then the next chord also features a mini bar in the middle finger like this. And then if you play it like this, you can just move on into this chord, right? I know that seems like a lot, but it's absolutely possible. Just like think about those 3 notes. They're moving chromatically down while this note stays. But if you don't want to play the bar finger, here you can also play it like this. So this would be the second chunk that you can already practice separately from this etude, just like, you know, I really believe in practicing the small stuff. And then a last chord is this one, right? We all know this chord. You can also play it like this, right? This chord you're also going to need. So that's how you can work on this tune in a first step. The second step is another chunk of chords, which is going to be repeated all the time. And this is going to be 3 chords. It's going to be the first one that we just had. And then this one. And then this one. So we're connecting them like this. And we're starting it on the G minor. on the C minor. It's always the same thing, but that's how it's going to appear exactly in the song. And it's really interesting if you have a look at the lead sheet. The first 4 bars are really only G minor, C7, G minor, C7. So the tune is in F, and this is of course a 2-5 going to F, but not, the F is not showing up, but we can think about it like this. So the tune starts like this. Those 3 notes are really in F major triad, right? You can, you know, D major, F major, just, right, visualize this. Then we're going to use the chords that we have been practicing. Right, so that's the start. That's a G minor 7. And then we have this chord here. Right, and that's a D flat 9, sharp 5 chord going into a C7. The C7 is our 5 chord here. So you can, as an easy solution, just think you're shifting a chromatic chord into the next chord, right? Just like chromatically shifting from above, but what is nice, the top note stays. And then he continues like this. Now it's a C7, 9. And he's going back to the G minor, right? Now we're on the C7, the 5 chord, and we want to go back to the G minor. And instead of playing, which would be a harmonization of this A, right? Because it's about harmonizing the notes in the melody. He's not playing the same thing again, he's playing this chord, which sounds really good here. It's the diminished chord going to the G minor, and we can understand this chord like a D7, flat 9, and then with the A. And if we put away the root, we get this diminished chord, which is a D7 flat 9, and that acts just like a little 5 going to the G minor, pushing the harmony forward. So you can always add a 5 chord in front of each chord as long as it sounds good. And that's what's happening here, right? We are on the 5 chord in the tune, like the C7, and then we have the secondary dominant. I'm thinking of it about it like a small 5, right? It's not the 5 of the tune, but it's the 5 leading into the next chord. Right, and then already we are here. So we can either play it, or we can play it like this. And this I needed to practice really. Because you have the bar, but you have to have the other fingers not barred. And then just going back, same thing again. We just had that, and then he starts the same sequence on the C minor. Since now in the tune we're having C minor 7, F7, C minor, F7, which is like a 2-5 going to B flat, and B flat in F major is the 4, right? So we can think about it as a 2-5 going to 4, or even the 5 is a secondary dominant, 5 going to 4, right? But basically we're playing the same thing here. And then we're going back again with a diminished. Now it's a G7 since it's leading to C minor. Right, so that's kind of interesting. More or less you can think about the first 8 bars as the same thing shifted up to the C minor. And now it changes from F7, that's going to the B flat, to the 4 chord. He's having this very minimal change of notes. The G goes to the G flat, it makes such a difference in my ears. Goes to the B flat. Right, this chord, it looks like a D minor 7 without the 5, then it's a D minor 7 11 chord. But if we think about the B flat in the bass, that the bass player is playing, we have like a 6-9 chord. Right, so we can use this minor 7 chord voicing also as a major chord on another root. So we are on B flat now, and then we have this cascade, right? Yeah, so this is just like a B flat. So they're all B flat chords, right? So we have this one, you can think about it as a B flat 6-9. That's just a B flat major chord, right? Always think about playing the same chord on another string pair. I think you all know this chord. It's the same voicing, right? And now that's also interesting. The same chord that we just used is now a B flat chord. If we analyze it to the B flat, then it's 6. It's a 6 chord, a B flat 6 chord. And then we're back to G minor 9. Right. Here we're on the 4 chord. Then 2, 5, 1, now we're on the 1 finally, and then the tune is moving on to the relative minor with 2 secondary dominants. And then we're playing G minor 7-9 on the 2, C7-9, 5, going back up, using another diminished chord, but this time it's leading to F major. Right, so it's interesting, you can really see how Chopin uses the same voicings over and over again. So this is again a diminished chord, and there are many ways how we can understand how that's a C7 flat 9 chord. Probably the easiest way would be to think this is a C, and then we have 5 flat 9, 3 flat 7. Right, and C7 of course goes to F major. And then we're having the same chord that we just had, but now it has an F in the bass. So let's check out this chord for a second. This chord from the start can be a G minor chord with a G in the bass. It can be a B flat 6 chord with a B flat in the bass, and it can be an E flat major 7-9 chord. So already a lot of usages for the same voicing, which also can be played like this, right? So where was I? We're coming, leading back to the F major, but this time approaching it chromatically from below. So it's really just a chromatic passing chord into the tonic, another major chord, and a 6th chord. So all major chords, right? We're having on the lead sheet the F major chord, but he's playing 3 different voices. So just to have different ways of sort of harmonizing the melody. And then all of a sudden we're up here, which is really cool. This is another one of Chopin's favorite chords, I would like to say. And I want to talk about that also for a second, if you don't mind. We can think about it as just like a B flat 7 coming from a shell voicing with a 13 and a 9. Just like without the root, right? But we could also say, what's the tritone? Substitution. And then we have like an altered chord, sharp 9. Flat 13, and that's what he's playing here. So and then so this is D minor now, that's the relative minor. Now the same chord that we just had a minute before is actually a D minor chord, right? Always think about the fact that on the recording there's a bass player who is playing the bass notes, and that gives the chords that Chopin is playing different, you know, sort of functions. If you want to check that out for yourself, what I'm talking about, record a B flat on your looper and this voicing, and play the B flat major scale over it, or record this chord with a D without the B flat and maybe play D Dorian over it and hear how that sounds different and how this one chord can have many purposes. Like this one could be, right, Mixolydian. And we can think about it as a Mixolydian chord, but with the tritone substitution, also again a different bass note. It can be Lydian, sorry, not Lydian, altered. Completely different sound. That's what's happening here, and that's how he can use the same chords in different ways. So now we're having this. And now those super minimalistic 3 and 7 of the shell voicing, right? I'm thinking E7, A7. Just he plays it like this. And then the flat 9 as a little color note, right? And really, this is like a 2-5 to D minor. Just the 2 is a secondary dominant, it's a dominant 7th chord because it just has more, I guess, more movement to the next chord. And then we are playing again the same thing, this time starting from D minor. And then, right, just playing a lot of C7 voicings, C7, 9, C7. Right, this chord again is this one. And then this one, which is practically the same chord that we just had here, just without the top note, right? And end it like this. So what we can take away from this is if with a 2-5, we can play a lot of stuff, right? So one thing is we could think, okay, any chord that we have with a top note, maybe we leave the top note and shift stuff around. So let's find a chord that is very commonly used, maybe this one, right? Or maybe another one that's going to sound a little more modern. And then if we want to be a little bit more analytical, we can think about using secondary dominants like Topaz does to have more voice leading and more movement in our chord progression. So I hope this was helpful, and I'll see you next week. Bye.